Hi guys, welcome to my TV guide, all about what I'm watching, and I just finished watching the latest Sleepy Hollow episode called Go Where I Send Thee, I think, and this episode was very good, and the main reason why it was very good was because Abbie and Ichabod spent pretty much all of it, the majority of it, by themselves with each other. Nick came into it at one point, but by that point they had spent enough time alone that, it was nothing. Like, this episode wasn't cluttered with, everyone trying to have a storyline. I love Jenny, but she wasn't in it. There was no Katrina. There was no death. Irving was in it, but he didn't take that much time. And I feel like, having seen this episode and realizing how good it was because of the amount of time Abbie and Ichabod spent together, that, they need to, of course, live up to the fact that they have all these characters, but every so often we need to, like, bring them, Abbie and Ichabod back together and, like, just focus on them and them doing their thing. And, of course, another big thing that helped this episode was that they were working together, like, the whole way. Like, we touched on Abbie's, her worry about her fate, her eventual fate as a witness, but it wasn't this thing that, like, kind of polarized, her and Ichabod, where Ichabod kept on talking about this idea or that, and she was kind of like, staying quiet, but still side-eyeing him. So that episode was missing that, which added to it being great. So Ichabod got his driving lesson. Well, not really his driving lesson. Abbie thought he was going to get a driving lesson, but he already got it from Jenny. And I feel like Ichabod did not start, that fast, like the speed demon. I feel like, of course, he was his usual, like, what is this, thing, this monstrosity or whatever. Jenny got on the wheel, went super fast, and of course he was intrigued by that, and of course immediately followed her example. So that was fun, to watch them in that environment. And then afterwards, Ichabod, told Abbie that he knows that she's preparing him to live independently of her in case something happens to her, and he reassures her that, we're going to triumph together, or we're going to fail together. And last episode I had been like, I'm tired of these, like, scenes, but because this episode was good, I didn't mind it the way I minded it in the preview at the end of that episode that I didn't think was so good. So because the episode was good, I didn't mind, the whole we're together, we're gonna succeed together, we're gonna fail together. And then watching the episode, I thought something, like I realized something, which is the fact that, Ichabod can be, we all know how he can be, but those looks that Abbie gives him, where she's, like, so amused by him and his, amused by his, how he takes everything so deeply and so personally, the rants that he goes on, how he gets offended at things, like with the coffee at the end, or those Italians, and then he loved it. I realized watching this episode that he's silly. Like, he's silly. Like, not just to us who are watching, but also to Abbie. And I think that both platonic-wise and ship-wise, she needs someone like that in her life. She needs someone like that. Like, her life has not had a whole lot of levity, basically. She doesn't relax. She's not the emotional one. Jenny is. And, with Corbin, he was trying to take care of her, trying to get her to, to trust him and all that stuff. She was busy trying to hold herself together to be normal while dealing with the fact that her and her sister were separated, and she more or less got to live the better life. We met her, the caseworker who worked on her and Jenny, Beth. And, Abbie didn't necessarily grow up with the woman, but she held her in high esteem. Like, she had good feelings about her. But yeah, where is Luke? Who knows? But we haven't really learned much about Abbie through him. I don't know where he is. Is he in jail or just disappeared? Did they just decide to go another route and we're just supposed to forget he ever existed? Where is he? But didn't do anything with it. But the little we saw of them, we didn't see a whole lot of, silliness or anything like that. Not a slam against them, just fact. We didn't see that. So Ichabod's whole himself, the way he is, and Abbie's just looking at him like, half not taking him seriously, A lot of times, because she can tell when he's in his emotions, but he's about to get his mind changed, like in the espresso scene. So she needs that in her life, and I realized that today, like that he's silly, not just to me who's watching, but to her, and it's something that she's not used to having in her life, and that would be a reason why she wants to hold on to him so much and so tightly. So, with the plot itself was good. There was the clunky part, which I'm starting to notice more and more when the episode, not the episode, but Ichabod in particular, when he realizes it. I've mentioned before about his leaps, where they just stick out like leaps for me, and they're sticking out more and more. When Nick was explaining the story, and the way Nick was talking about it, I thought he believed it, but he said all of that stuff, and then at the end he's like, but it's just a story. That kind of took me about, because the way he was talking about it, I thought he was talking about something that he believed. But, yeah, so the moment when Ichabod realizes, that's right, Lancaster hired the mercenary, and then Lancaster betrayed the ministry. He's like, oh, the only thing that's left would be for him to betray him, and so that's how the curse began. He didn't know this until he heard Nick's story, but once he heard it, like, he put two and two together, and it just stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Like, I feel like they're getting worse and worse with that aspect, where Ichabod, and maybe it's because it's all on him to put it together. I thought they were going to try to balance that out a little bit with Nick, and they kind of did, because Abbie asked him to tag along because he knew the story, whereas Ichabod only knew that the Pied Piper lured the soldiers out and killed them. Nick knew the story, so I thought they were going to balance it that way. Maybe it's clunky because it's like all coming from him. Abbie can't tell him, because it's his job to be like, oh yeah, this stuff is true, and here's how it relates to like, he has a big job exposition wise. It's all on him. Like, the mythology of it is all on him. And so in a way it makes sense that there will be times when it just falls flat, it's clunky, it's awkward, it's like a reach. But the thing is that I feel like it's happening more and more. Like, when he's explaining it, I'm just like detached from it, and I'm like, okay, let's just move past this and get back to like the actual action. Let's move past the exposition that like kind of like ties it all together and lets them know exactly what's going on. It's all on Ichabod, and I think because of that, like, it's, you know, it gets burdensome, like, on the character himself and on the story. So Nick was there. He only cared about getting the bone, and then when they got out, and he was like, okay, where's my prize? He only tried to save that girl because that night he happened to see her, and that part of it, I'm just like, how are you just gonna be blasé about a missing child that you saw? You know, the girl said, he's like, okay, where's my prize? I'm like, okay. But the part about him not wanting to step into this whole apocalypse thing, he's like, okay, which version of the apocalypse are we talking about? Because there's a couple, you know, in all the books or whatever, and they all have different prices. And Ichabod's looking at him like, you know, oh my gosh. And Abbie's looking at him like, are you serious? This is real, blah, blah. But, I mean, he's basically only supposed to go on. I mean, yeah, he saw the Pied Piper, but, you know, I can understand the skepticism that, okay, sure, there's this one, but what guarantee do I have that this is really going to happen? You know, he hasn't seen Mullock, he didn't see Andy with his neck bent back, he hasn't seen war, he only saw this one thing, and it wasn't enough to convince him, and, you know, and even if he did believe it, I would understand him not wanting to take up the fight, because what if he dies? I mean, Irving took up the fight, and the priest told him that, well, those who followed the witnesses, they become martyrs and they die. I mean, it's not exactly a worth, you know, like I can understand why it would not be or be seen as like a worthwhile fight. Someone might hear the apocalypse is for real gonna come and decide, nah, I'm not gonna fight it. I'm just gonna go live my life to the fullest and do everything I can before it ends, you know? So I understand that. And especially because I mean, I can get why it would be annoying that, but it's like they're like trying to recruit more allies, but they should understand that the last person who came into it with little resistance was Henry, and he turned out to have a hidden agenda. I mean, yeah, he started out, having a power. He's the sin eater, but the sin eating thing wasn't gonna get him killed. Helping them was very likely gonna get him killed, but then he came. He was willing to help after just a little bit of resistance, and he turned out to have played them this whole time. So I would hope that they would take that into account when it comes to like wanting Nick to absolutely help them. If he had been like, oh yeah, sure, I totally believe you now, let's go team. But that didn't happen. He got his prize. Well, he got his prize, 2 halves of it because Abbie broke it. And at first I thought she broke it because she was mad at him for not wanting to help. I completely forgot that, being that they don't know Nick, we don't know Nick. I mean, he was pretty callous about a girl's life being in danger. He could have sold it to someone who could have then used it again. I mean, as we saw, well, kind of, because we know the witnesses are special, they can read spells and stuff like that, but the weapon did need the Pied Piper to play it. Actually, no, not even just because Ichabod's a witness. They put the recording on an audio. They made an audio of it, and it still affected Abbie. And I forgot that, Nick could either use it himself or sell it to somebody who could use it. I forgot that when Abbie broke it until she said, you didn't really believe we're going to give it to you, like this weapon thing. And of course, I'm sure a part of her was like, happy to break it because Nick got on her nerves for not wanting to help with the whole witness thing and making light of it and just wanting his prize. So the actual plot of it had a twist. It was a very good twist. And it was a very interesting twist because she was stuck, it wasn't that Beth was evil. She was stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I found it interesting, as a consumer of TV and movies, that she was willing to sacrifice her biological daughter for the adoptive kids. I feel like that's not something you see. It's always like, oh, especially if the story is focused on that type of family where, the adoptive kids will be, kind of like feeling a little insecure or worried because the parents have a biological child. No, she was willing to let that go, especially since it seems, based on the kids' ages, I don't know when she adopted them, probably when they were small. She's had them a lot longer than the girl. So she was gonna give the Pied Piper the girl to save her other kids, her adoptive kids. So to me, that angle of it was interesting. But she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either sacrifice the Lancaster girl or lose the rest of the kids, Sacrifice the one who's 10 and biological to Daniel Lancaster, direct descendant, or lose the rest of the kids. Sucked. Abbie understood. And this was a sore subject for Abbie. Kid getting taken to the woods and messed with. That's what happened. Well, she wasn't taken to the woods, but that happened to her, so she was happy to kill the Pied Piper. So that was the episode. Henry ended up being the buyer. And, Abbie breaking it worked out for him because he was gonna crush it anyways. What is he gonna do with it? Who knows? Irving confronted Henry. He's like, I know what you are. You're the horseman of war. He had that little vision of himself as a soldier for the, in the apocalypse, fighting on the other side, killing people left and right. And then the Bible caught on fire after he had the vision. And he's like, F you, Henry. And Henry's like, okay, then I'm going to take everything. I'm going to take, the insurance money away from your daughter, the compensation away from your wife, and I'm not going to delay your trial anymore. And he tries to get in his head, like, how did Abbie and Ichabod help you? They didn't do anything to protect your family and all that stuff. And I wasn't sure whether or not Irving was going to go for it. I mean, not that Abbie and Ichabod didn't try, but it wouldn't be about Abbie and Ichabod. It would be about what the priest had told him, which is that he's destined for death, basically, if he follows them. But I know that it wouldn't be focused on him. He would be more worried about Macy and his ex-wife, but especially Macy, because nothing really happened to him, but Macy got pulled into it. So I would have understood if he would have, like, gone for it, but he didn't. Henry was like, you knew the truth, you just didn't want to see it, which I find manipulative. But that was that. We'll see where it goes. The next episode is the Halloween episode, which I'm super excited about. I can't wait. It looks very good based on the commercial. So, I mean, I know a little bit about the lady, the story behind her, so that might be a little bit sketchy, the explanation for her, her being the way she is, but hopefully it'll be more good than bad. But this is kind of a roller coaster, because I didn't really care for the resolution of the last episode. The one before that, I was side-eyeing the Kindred, and then the premiere I loved this one, so hopefully they'll give me a second one that I love, and then they can do whatever they want with the one after that. So, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought about everything. We got an It Could Be episode just to themselves, minus, a lot of everyone else, so I feel like that helped the episode a lot. So, let me know what you think, comment, and I'll see you guys for the next review of the next episode, alright? Bye!